Here.
Give it back to her.
It's okay. It's okay.
You can't do that or I'll curse you.
Yo, what?
I curse you.
All right, the Curse episode 1 is here, and I'm super excited to be talking about it and getting back to the Showtime platform. I had a lot of fun with Dexter and Yellow Jackets, and I'm looking forward to what we get out of this very interesting concept of a show, The Curse. In this video, I'm going to recap and share my thoughts on the events of episode 1, and I knew that there would be some weird stuff in this show, but some of the stuff in this episode was pretty out there. Now, clearly I'm going to be covering the events of this episode, so spoilers ahead, let's get to it. The show opens with our main characters Asher and Whitney Siegel, played by Nathan Fielder and Emma Stone, as they're interviewing locals of Espanola for their reality TV show Fliplanthropy. They give these folks the exciting news that their son now had a job at a new local coffee shop and could pay for his mother's cancer treatment. When the mother isn't emotional enough for the director of the reality show, Dougie, played by Benny Safdie, he puts drops of water on the mother's face and blows menthol in her eyes to help her look emotional. And this is upsetting to Whitney.
Or how reality shows get made. That was disgusting. No, we're not HGTV. We don't share those values.
I know. It won't be like this anymore.
Next, we see more clips of them in the community helping locals save money with their rent and also giving a tour of one of their net zero homes, which is a combination of being eco-friendly and nicely designed. We cut to Dougie telling Asher that the show is boring and they need to inject some drama into it. Dougie tries to persuade Asher to get into a fight with Whitney for the show, which he turns down. Next, we see Asher and Whitney being interviewed by a news anchor about their show and what they hope to accomplish in Espanola. Whitney explains that the show isn't a typical one seeking maximum profits, but that theirs has the goal of having a net positive impact on the community as a whole. She also says they use a portion of each home's sale to subsidize rent for people in the community. The news anchor asks about buildings owned by Whitney's family, to which she replies she's unaffiliated with her family's business and they don't own any buildings in the area anyway. The reporter brings up a building owned by Whitney's family in another town and how it's hell on earth. This triggers Asher and he unloads on the reporter for continuing to dig into this. He says they are focused on Espanola and the reporter should respect that and focus on their efforts there and not whatever Whitney's family is doing. After the interview, Whitney and Asher try to figure out damage control and how they might prevent that interview from getting out. Asher has a story about his time working at a casino and some of what he saw there in relation to the gaming control board. The reporter agrees to meet, but when Asher shows up, the reporter says that she needs 10 minutes. Okay, while we're waiting on the reporter, now's a good time to click that subscribe button if you enjoy talking about great TV shows like I do. Each week I cover my favorite shows from Showtime, Apple TV, really all the platforms, anything that I find interesting. So if that's what you're into, click that subscribe button. Let's get back to it. While waiting on the reporter in the parking lot, Dougie tells Asher to give a little girl some money for the show. Asher only had a $100 bill to give her, and after they record their take, he asks for the money back and goes inside a store to get some change. While inside, he tries using an ATM that doesn't seem to work, and a man in the store offers to help, but will only do so if Asher will give him his PIN number. Asher finally gives the man his PIN number, gets his money out of the ATM, and goes outside, but the little girl is gone. Asher heads to his meeting with the reporter, and she seems more interested in airing the story of the Siegels instead of whatever Asher is offering about the gaming board. She tells Asher that she knows the new coffee shop they helped open only signed a 6-month lease, and she doesn't seem to buy that the Siegels are actually acting out of goodwill. Asher and Whitney go over to her parents' house for dinner, and there's a very weird focus on Asher's size. And Whitney's father shares that he has a similar situation. I can't imagine how this is going to be super relevant to the story, other than it may be the initial thing that drives a wedge between Whitney and Asher and kind of begins the drama between these two that Dougie is looking for the show. After arriving home that night, Whitney, Asher, and their mechanical friend Steven enjoy some physical bonding time. The next day, Asher and Whitney meet with Dougie to review some of the footage, and Whitney sees the scene of Asher giving and then taking the money from the little girl. Whitney understandably loses it over this and tells Asher he needs to go find the girl and give her the money. What I thought was interesting here was I think most people would probably hear the story of the little girl cursing him or seeing the footage of the little girl cursing him and not really thinking much about it. Whitney seems overly concerned about it, like she believes there's actual weight behind this curse. And she even says that Asher should expect consequences to his actions. So I find it interesting that Whitney seemingly believes that they are legitimately cursed and forces Asher to go out and find the girl and give her the money so that the curse could be lifted. Asher goes out in search of the girl but can't seem to track her or the family down. He does find a shelter but is ultimately unable to track them down, so he just ends up giving the money to someone else. Next, we see Whitney and Dougie working on voiceovers for the show, and Dougie starts talking bad about Asher, saying that what he did was messed up, and that it's surprising Asher is even involved in what Whitney was doing with her show. This is clearly more of an effort by Dougie to drive a wedge between Whitney and Asher and really try to get that juicy drama that he's looking for a hit show. After their conversation, Asher shows up and says he found the girl and gave her the $100 and made up a whole story about it, being sure to include that the curse was gone. This conversation was observed through a peephole across the hallway, making us wonder who was on the other side of the door. My first thought is that it's just more of the crew that's there with Dougie to record the show, and that they're just getting more footage, that Dougie seems to always be asking them to be recording everything. So that's my first thought. I have no idea who else it would be, so that makes the most sense to me right now. The show concludes with Whitney recording her voiceover in a slow pan into Asher's somewhat concerned-looking face. Okay, so for the first episode, I thought it was pretty good. Again, those weird scenes at Whitney's parents' house, I don't know what that was about, from the whole conversation about their physical parts to urinating in the tomato plants and putting fish in the tomato plant. That was all just super weird. But that's not uncommon to see in the horror genre. You usually have something kind of weird and unsettling going on, but this, I wasn't expecting it. It came out of left field. I do want to talk about this scene. Let me play it for you real quick. Okay, whenever that scene played and that lady stood in that doorway for a while, I was like uncomfortable. That felt very horror vibey to me. After thinking about it for a while, I thought, this is just a local who's not happy that the hipsters are coming in and opening this hipster jeans shop next to this hipster coffee shop. That same lady who was standing at the doorway is the one that goes into the coffee shop and is trying to order the coffee from the Australian girl working the bar. So I feel like it's probably more that and just trying to inject some discomfort into the show, which it was unsettling as a viewer to see that. It felt creepy. But I don't know that there's more to it than that, other than they just wanted you to feel that kind of awkward tension. Whatever the reason was, I just found that scene very interesting and I found it particularly enjoyable. I really think we're going to see a lot more tension between Asher and Whitney. I think that's going to be one of the main themes of this show, and with that, we're going to see a lot of the chaos and craziness begin to unravel as we make it through these next several episodes. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a pretty solid start to the show, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about it as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.